kaya kung ang mga review namin ay tulad ng mga nababasa nyo sa Shopee at Lazada? Guys, ito ang bagong Ford Ranger. Dumating sa akin to, napakakintab, makapal ang tire block at nakabalot ng plastic lahat na nasa loob. Hindi ko pa namamaneho ang bagong kotse, pero dahil mabait si seller, mabilis si Kuya Rider, at nakabalot ng bubble wrap yung buong sasakyan pagdating sa akin, 5 stars agad. Joke lang, we won't do that to you here at AutoIndustriya. We're really all about in-depth reviews because we want to give you, customers, a full picture of what you can expect from every vehicle that we review. Now, what we have here is the new generation Ford Ranger. It is not technically an all-new model. It is still a T6, but it's a major evolution of the T6. But from the front, clearly, a lot has changed. I know a lot of customers in the truck class, they prefer something that looks very strong, and that is indeed what Ford gives you because the front is very much upright. It has these nice C-shaped headlamps, bi-LEDs actually, and it has this very, very nice grille with the silver trim underneath. It looks like it's gonna protect you. You know, yung tipong kaya kang ipaglaban. But if you look around some of the details, you can see that there are a lot of sensors going on with the vehicle because they put in a lot of safety features into the new generation Ford Ranger, more of which we'll tell you later. But look up there, there's a sensor up there, sensors here, park sensors, and even one here for the adaptive cruise control. Oh, and don't forget, camera all around, actually 1, 2, 3, and 4 at the very back. There's a lot going on with the Ranger, but first, let's look at the platform. So from that angle, well, still very much a double cab pickup truck. It doesn't look that much different, but when you look at some of the details, you will spot a few. For example, the wide side steps are very generous for getting in and out. Has the cladding, the fender liners there. Has these vents here, just like before, but a bit different. And it's going to be very useful if you want to put a snorkel on your Ranger, but on that side, because the intake is over there. But what's important here is actually right here. Now, I'm not talking about the wheels. These are, of course, 18s, and they come with Goodyear Wrangler territory, which is kind of apt for Ford. But what I'm talking about is the wheelbase. Because you see, Ford moved the wheelbase or the front axle a bit forward, and that will make a big difference under the hood. Powering the new generation Ford Ranger WIldtrak is a 2-liter bi-turbo diesel engine with a 10-speed automatic that can go 4 high, 4 low, or 2 high. Yes, the powertrain is pretty much the same as before. They haven't really made any big changes in that space. But if you look at the engine bay, they really made a difference with the space of the vehicle. That's the point of moving the wheelbase forward, to allow you to have a larger engine bay. Now, why did Ford do that? The answer is simple. They were making room for bigger engines. Now, if you've been watching what's been going on around the world with Ford, they've already revealed the new generation Ranger Raptor, and that one has a V6. So they have to be able to fit a V6 into this engine bay, and judging by the amount of space left over, they've got plenty of room to work with. But another important thing that they want to do is have electrification in the future for this lineup. And again, because of the space, they're able to do that in the future. As to when we'll see that, who knows? Only they do. So the new Ford Ranger, not my first time in this vehicle. If you didn't see my previous video, it's right up here somewhere. Now, when it comes to foreign drives, I'm really hesitant to give reviews, a full review, because road conditions are different, especially when you compare them to here. And especially with pickup trucks, because as you know, pickup trucks, they're not really known for comfort. When I first got this unit, I thought, it's like, wow, tagtag ah. But when I checked the tire pressure, yep, again, the tire pressure in front was too high. It was at 35. The rear was just right at 35. Now, it sounds weird because the front, when I checked the tire pressure, the proper tire pressure for this one, it's supposed to be 30 in front and then 35 in the back. So when I set it to the correct pressure, it was all right. Now if you notice, it's really just started to come down with rain. And that actually brings up one important criticism I have of this truck, and that is the NVH. Now I've already mentioned the suspension. It's actually okay once you get the tire pressures to the correct ones, but it's with the noise control, the noise suppression, that I think this could be improved on. Because if you can hear, it sounds like I'm under a tin roof. Doesn't seem to be much noise insulation up there. So when it comes down, it's like a pitter patter, like, yeah, right now. It's not as good as some of the other pickup trucks in the class, like my Navara, for example, or the Strada. That's another good one when it comes to noise control. And now the rain stops and I can stop yelling. But I've also noticed that with other vehicles, like loud jeepneys, loud motorcycles, the sound really does come into the cabin quite a bit more than others. But that aside, I think the Ranger has a lot going for it. I mean, look at the dashboard. If you look at this dashboard, it looks very, very nice. Now, it is a bit busier than others, especially with this big touch screen here, which you can have your controls for a lot of other features of the vehicle. Even the climate control can be also managed from here. You can also do it from the buttons, but it's nicer when you work all of this out. But if you can see, digital screen, very nice. The interior though, it seems to be fairly high quality for a truck. The materials are nice, the touch points are nice, the leather on the steering wheel is nice. The stitching, because this is a WIldtrak, it has that orange stitching with that WIldtrak badge there. Even the AC vents, this really reminds me of a fighter jet, you know, when you have the thrust vectoring there, so the way the louvers move up and down. What I really appreciate with this Ranger is the thought process that went into making it as functional as possible. I mean, you look around the cabin, there are compartments or proper places for all kinds of things that you may have on you. We've got a pocket up here, which is good for your phone, like there, or a map if you still use maps, or flashlight, or whatever else you have in your pocket. You can have your phone down here on the wireless charger in this variant, and even my big Xiaomi 12 Pro fits very, very nicely. Cup holders here. There are two hidden cup holders on the dashboard, one on the left for the driver and one on the right for the front passenger. But what I really like is what Ford did with the bed of this. Let's stop back at the warehouse and let me show you what's going on back there. Now that we're back at the warehouse, I want to show you what I really like about the Ranger, and that's what's going on here in the back. Now, yes, the design is nice, the new emblems and logos are nice, the new taillights are really good, but what I like here is the functionality. For one, the bars here, the rails, these are fully functional and you can tie down things to there, no problem. But it also means you can easily grab onto that and get up because of the side steps, like on that side as well. That is something Ford built in right into the Ranger. When you open the tailgate of this one, that's when it gets even more interesting. If you notice, helper spring, so much easier. Now, you look around, looks like any other normal pickup truck bed, but if you look here, you've got a 12-volt outlet there, and then a 230-volt outlet in there. I can't reach, I'm not tall enough to do that, but it's all there. Now, if you notice, I have some wood here, like, let's say you go to your local Home Depot and you want to get a 2x4. Now, if you notice, 2x4s don't usually come in this length. This has already been broken down, but if you buy from a Home Depot, it's about 8 or 10 feet long, and you need to break it down before going home. And with the Ranger, you can actually do that, because if you notice, I have a clamp right here, and that's because there are actually clamp pockets on both sides, which makes it nice and simple for breaking things down. If you clamp it down right here and get started. My older ones, it's a bit rusty, but it still works. But if you do that, you can secure your wood to the bed and then break it down here. The width of this bed is also interesting because it's exactly 48 inches wide. It makes it simple because that means you can get plywood in there and just support it over here to bring it home. Oh. Now back to the driving. For performance, for power, this one has a 2-liter twin-turbo diesel engine. Yes, the same one as before, and that 10-speed automatic. Ford didn't really change that because, well, for one, it's already a good engine anyway. Like right now, I want to overtake, it responds pretty well. Yeah, I like the power of this. The torque down low is not as great as other bigger engines because it is a small engine, so much of the power is developed fairly high up in the rev range. But nevertheless, it's a nice and an easy drive around town or even out of town. And it's very efficient too. In the city, it was getting around 9.1 kilometers per liter, average of 21 kilometers per hour. And on the highway, it's around 14.9. I could probably get more if I really wanted to be efficient, but we're in a bit of a rush. Where the Ranger stands head and shoulders above its competitors is in the technology department. I mean, you don't really have to look that far. You just have to look at the dashboard to realize what I mean. The instrument cluster, I like that they went for the digital screen and then didn't bother with a dual binnacle, like tachometer, speedometer kind. So you don't really need to bother with that in an automatic anyway. You just need the speed, fuel economy readouts, so on and so forth. This center screen here, that's really where a lot of the magic happens. It sounds weird, but this is where you control Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. Like right now I have Waze on here, and a lot of the functions of the vehicle, including if you want to go 4x4. Now, the 4x4 controls are actually right here, the 4 high, 4 low, and then 2 high, so on and so forth, along with the hill descent and the terrain modes down here. But your differential lock is actually not a button, it's on the screen, which I did find weird. I'll explain later. But what Ford is really going to be marketing with this one is the advanced safety. Adaptive cruise control, the automatic emergency braking, all these kinds of features you will find in the all-new Ford Ranger WIldtrak in this variant. But, I mean, it's a great package to have, and so far, the AEB hasn't been intrusive, or the pre-collision warning, because in a lot of vehicles it cries bloody murder. In this one, it can if you're in really tight traffic, but so far, I haven't found the need to turn it off, so which is a good thing. I think it's admirable that Ford always tries to be game-changing or class-leading with many of their vehicles by offering more features for the same kind of money as their competitors. I think it does bring up one concern, at least in my mind, and that's with long-term reliability. Because as you know, the more features you offer, the more points of failure you have. And particularly with electronics, that could be an issue. I actually brought that up with Ford during the deep dive of this, because why in the world did they put the diff lock in the screen instead of having a physical button for it? Because as we know, if you go off-road, it's a tough test on electronics of a vehicle. I mean, it's already a tough test on the mechanicals, what more on the electronics? So had there been a physical button, I think that would have been better. The other concern is when it comes to the parts of the vehicle. Now, we're not talking about the parts shortage happening right now, but when you try to price a vehicle competitively, but still want to offer more features, you kind of pressure your suppliers into offering you the features for a very, very good price. And naturally, as a supplier, you want to make some money. And the only way to make some money is to get from a cheaper source or use cheaper components. And that could be an issue. Now, I'm not saying that the Ranger is unreliable. We did off-roading with this over in Thailand and everything worked, which is good. But what about 5 years or 10 years down the line? Will it still last? Well, let us know in the comments below what you think. So far, I'm really liking what Ford did with the new generation Ford Ranger. I think it looks great inside and out. It's really functional. It's got a lot of capability built in, and it's got a lot of technology. Of course, that technology does come at a price because, for one, the more points of technology you introduce into any vehicle, particularly a rugged vehicle, the more points of failure you actually have. As to whether this is going to be reliable, well, only time can tell, but it's good that Ford actually retained the same powertrain because I think they've already worked out all the kinks from the drivetrain of the Ranger. The only thing you have to really figure out is whether it's worth it to you, because this one comes in at 1.875 million. Yep, it's quite pricey, but it is very well loaded. Whether it fits your lifestyle as a casual truck enthusiast or your work every day as someone who demands something more hardcore out of their trucks, well, only you can figure that out. I suggest you test drive one and see for yourself. This is Vince of AutoIndustriya.com.